Porsche or Audi really could be coming to Formula 1 if a planned major engine rule change gets agreed and it results in a collaboration we're now expecting to happen between Red Bull and the Volkswagen Group. F1 has finally made substantial progress in discussions over its next generation engine, which is set to be delayed until 2026 and lose one of its most complex and expensive components. If that happens, it should allow Red Bull to strike a deal with a Volkswagen Group brand, with Porsche and Audi representatives part of the F1 engine rule talks that have happened so far. This is a big story for Formula 1 and quite a fun one that we're pleased to be able to bring you on this channel, so make sure you join the discussion in the comments, and if you like what you see, leave us a thumbs up at any time. The latest meeting over F1's engine future took place at the Italian Grand Prix between the FIA, F1, existing manufacturers and prospective new ones. F1 recorded it as a positive discussion, with some details still needing to be addressed, but a resolution expected in the coming weeks. Among the unanswered questions are how much the power unit's electrical output should increase by, and how best to manage the expense of designing what will need to be all new engines. But the clearest development is that F1 is set to abandon the MGU-H and delay the new engine rule set to 2026 in a move that sets up a likely Red Bull-Volkswagen engine collaboration. The Volkswagen Group has been part of previous discussions, but that participation has never been a guarantee of intent to enter Formula 1. However, the likelihood of these talks resulting in a Porsche or Audi engine program will increase significantly if F1 does drop the MGU-H, which is a complicated part of the energy recovery system on modern F1 engines. Red Bull has previously lobbied for the simplification of the engines because it has created its own powertrains division to build the first in-house Red Bull F1 engine for the new rules. It's been wary of having to develop the highly specialised MGU-H, especially given the head start the existing manufacturers have. At the same time, the cost and complexity of mastering the MGU-H was a clear turn-off for a Volkswagen Group brand to enter Formula 1. That presented Red Bull with an ally. Both companies want the same outcome, and as they have independent voices during the discussion over the new rules, it strengthened the anti-MGU-H argument. The really interesting part though is that it looks like Red Bull and Volkswagen will become something much more than just political allies. Our sources have confirmed they are working towards a common project for the new regulations. The beauty of Red Bull's in-house engine program was that it could be used to attract another manufacturer that didn't want to start an F1 project from scratch. A collaboration with a Volkswagen brand makes sense as it allows the companies to share the financial burden of developing an F1 engine as well as the technology required to do so. Asked by The Race about the significance of the MGU-H being dropped, Red Bull boss Christian Horner said, "There's a lot of discussion going on at the moment. If that were to happen, we would obviously welcome it. Anything that makes the racing engines more simplistic while obviously ticking all the boxes of sustainability is the right thing for Formula 1. Hopefully in the coming weeks an agreement, a unanimous agreement, will be found." F1 is determined to attract a new manufacturer with its new engine rules, which always meant a greater effort was likely to be made to incorporate certain demands. And when you understand why dropping the MGU-H is so important to actually attracting a new manufacturer, this outcome is easy to understand. The MGU-H is a sophisticated element of the complex V6 turbo hybrids. It converts heat from exhaust gases into electrical energy that powers the MGU-K but can also be stored, and it controls the speed of the turbocharger. There's no limit to how much energy the MGU-H can recover per lap during a race, so it's crucial to reaching the maximum capacity of the battery and the performance of the energy recovery system as a whole, which currently contributes 20% of the engine's total power. The MGU-H can also spin up the turbo immediately on throttle, which means quicker air compression and makes it effectively a high-tech anti-lag system that plays a key role in the drivability of the current engine. And it's responsible for impressive thermal efficiency of more than 50%. But the MGU-H is expensive, complicated, and serves little to no function outside of F1. Last year, Mercedes said the technology was being adapted for an electric exhaust gas turbocharger in future AMG cars, but otherwise it's considered irrelevant from a production perspective. It's also been blamed for the lack of noise the current V6 turbo hybrids produce. For those reasons, there was a serious effort to drop the MGU-H several years ago, when the FIA laid out a roadmap in 2017 designed to improve the controversial power units. Getting rid of the MGU-H to simplify the internals of the engine was a key part of that, with the new power unit planned for a 2021 introduction. But as we all know, that didn't happen. Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault and Honda had all invested significant resources into developing the technology, so were not keen for it to be quickly shelved. In 2018, they united in their lobbying to keep it and were successful, which is why the architecture of the new V6 turbo hybrid has remained largely unchanged since its 2014 introduction. It left F1 in an all too familiar position where those that were already part of the club wanted to protect their investment and their head start, which put off the potential manufacturers that could join if the circumstances were right. Well, for 2026, they just might be. Even back in 2018, it was clear the manufacturers knew that dropping the MGU-H was vital to attracting a new brand to F1. And in this round of discussions, the importance of F1 tempting in the Volkswagen Group has been clearly understood. That's why the existing manufacturers have come to change their stance, because the context around the discussions happening now is different to 3 years ago, and all the other manufacturers probably have something they want to change the MGU-H for. Speaking of which, F1 and the FIA need to make sure that all the parties are aligned, because in the Liberty Media era, the target has always been to do things with unanimous agreement rather than forcing stuff through. Exactly what has happened behind the scenes to make the existing manufacturers amenable to dropping the MGU-H is unknown. But every engine manufacturer wants to control the costs in the new era because it's been universally accepted that spending on the V6 turbo hybrid spiralled out of control. It's possible that agreeing to losing the MGU-H could result in a more favourable outcome in discussions over a potential engine cost cap. But we can never rule out Ferrari, which has enormous influence in these discussions, from trading the MGU-H for something more preferable in the sporting, technical or even financial regulations. As for Mercedes, which is the strongest proponent of keeping the MGU-H, it says losing it will only happen if certain compromises are made. It's understood that Mercedes wants to ensure all the manufacturers are on a level playing field. There have been talks about potentially allowing new entrants certain dispensations to hasten their progress, something Mercedes believes is unnecessary given all the manufacturers must develop a new engine for the next generation rules. By 2026, Red Bull powertrains will have spent time learning and operating the Honda power units that Red Bull will take over from 2022. The Red Bull powertrains factory will have been up and running for some time by then, and of course, it will likely be paired with a VW brand. So you can see why Mercedes or another engine manufacturer would think it bizarre to let that engine project have concessions that could give it an advantage. When we asked Mercedes boss Toto Wolff about this at Monza, he said, "The MGU-H is going to be dropped if we can find alignment on many other points. I think it's a compromise that at Mercedes we are prepared to enter in order to facilitate the entry of the Volkswagen Group. But there are several other topics where compromise needs to be found. And if compromise cannot be found, then we will probably revert to the governance and have 2026 regulations that the FIA and FOM are going to come up with." Wolff's reference to the governance means that should the manufacturers not be able to come to an agreement, it would then be down to F1 itself and the FIA to create the rules. While F1 and the FIA have both already played an active role in this process, they would be able to impose all conditions and manufacturers wouldn't have a say. But agreement should be achievable. Renault's position has not been shared officially, but it is believed to be on board with losing the MGU-H, as is Ferrari. Ferrari chief Mattia Binotto said, "The discussions we are having have been positive, and most or all of the manufacturers agree to remove the MGU-H. There are a lot of things that still need to be discussed and agreed, but I think that generally speaking, the discussion is moving on positively." So does all this boost your optimism that F1 will get a new engine manufacturer after all? Which Volkswagen brand would you like to see if that happens? And do you think F1's making the right call by sacrificing a cornerstone of its hybrid engines, even if it's not something the outside world knows much about? Let us know in the comments, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed our story and the explanation behind it, and if you're new here or you've needed some persuading, how about hitting that subscribe button and joining us again for more videos in the future.